Hello and welcome to Getting Your Money's Worth, the show that focuses on value. I'm Judith West and our guest today is Jane Hirschman, founder of Time Out from Testing. I got it right, Time Out from Testing.
Right.
Okay, hi Jane, thanks for being on the show. Okay, before we go any further, please, we have to know, what is the mission of Time Out from Testing?
Okay, let's make it clear that Time Out from Testing, we're a statewide organization in New
Okay.
York, but we are not opposed to tests per se.
Okay, so for starters, you're not against testing.
We're not opposed to testing. We think testing can be very useful from a diagnostic point of view.
Okay.
But we're opposed to the excessive and high-stakes nature of testing in today's educational system.
Okay.
And let me define what high stakes
let's
is.
Let's go. Are we talking now K through 12? Or
Yes, we focus on K through 12.
Okay, so we're K through 12 and public school education.
Yes.
And you are opposed to what you're calling high stakes testing.
Right.
Okay, so now define high stakes testing.
High stakes testing is when the single score determines whether you're promoted from one grade to the next or whether you graduate from high school. And in this state, in New York State, in high school, you now have to pass 5 high stakes tests in order to graduate.
Okay, let's go slow. So you say when the single test score defines promotion. I thought that promotion was something that was a year of testing or a battery of testing. Are you saying that at the end of every year there's one single test?
Mayor Bloomberg,
despite what the child's or what the student's record may have been throughout the year.
Right. In certain grades, Mayor Bloomberg has put down a ruling that children in 3rd, 5th, and 7th grade must pass.
Mayor Bloomberg has control over the schools in New York City.
Right.
Okay.
He is the mayor. He controls the Department of Education in New York City.
Okay.
And he has decided that 3rd graders, in order to move from 3rd to 4th, or from 5th to 6th, or from 7th to 8th, those children must pass an English and a math high-stakes test. The English test is given in the middle of the year when they haven't even yet completed the grade work.
Okay.
And you could have a student who gets excellent grades, has wonderful attendance, the teacher thinks the student should be moved forward. If that student fails one of those 2 tests, that student is repeating the 3rd, 5th, and 7th grade.
Okay. Well, let's just go analyze that just a little bit, Jane. I live in New York City, and I consider Mayor Bloomberg to be an intelligent businessman. So I think that we have to understand why someone who is intelligent would deem such a program.
You've just put your finger on the word, businessman.
Yeah.
Mayor Bloomberg is a businessman.
Okay.
He's put in charge of education businessmen and women and lawyers. There are no people now down at Tweed, which is the official building for the Department of Education, that are educators. There is no institutional educational memory down at that building.
But
let me finish this because I think it's important. Your question was very important. Why would an intelligent businessman do this to the city children? And the reason is because business people know about data. They know about charts. They look at things as a CEO would look at things. But you can't look at a child's learning as if they're widgets that you can just manipulate, get data, enter the data, and get your information. Learning for children is very multi-textured. It's very complicated. And you have to look at the child, whole year, and you have to look at the child or where the child came in, where the child is going.
All right, that's a given. I used to teach for a living before I went into business. And I have to say, much of what you've said is very reminiscent of the things that I learned in the School of Education and that were practiced in the classroom. On the flip side of the coin, there are words in every industry on the planet Earth, except maybe education, which is an industry after all, that talk about productivity, that talk about accountability, that talk about getting your money's worth. And the truth of the matter is that it isn't as though the other side of the coin is an unblemished picture. The statistics in this country compared to other countries are diminishing in math and science, and there are urban school areas where maybe half or a little more graduate from high school in 4 years. So there is some statistics.
Yeah, so let's look at those. Let's look at those.
And you use the word statistics, which is certainly apropos. There are some statistics that don't paint a picture necessarily appropriate for the other side of the coin.
See,
so let's look
children
at those.
are not on an assembly line. You can't look at them as if you can measure productivity in that way. But let's look at this.
But how
I'm
going
to tell you what's happened. Ever since the mayor's plan has been put into effect, and we have to look at high school also. There are 5 Regents exams, which are mandated by the state, not the city.
Right.
Ever since that plan has been put in place, which has been since 1999, New York State graduates its Black and Latino children last in the country, behind Mississippi and South Carolina. And if you add whites and Asians and other ethnicities, we are number 48th in the country to graduate our children in 4 years. So I would say his program of testing and data collection is a dismal failure because our children are not learning, they're being test prepped, they're not graduating, they're not ready for the 21st century.
Okay. But there could be, and this is about discussing the topic. I mean, it's not a debate, but it could well be that the standards for graduation in the state of New York are higher than Mississippi or South Carolina or other states.
Let me tell you why I say they're lower, because if you've looked, we've analyzed every test given. The tests are so poorly devised. Every psychometrician who looks at these tests said, and all the colleges, the elite colleges in particular, say, we would never accept a Regents graduate who has a high score in a Regents test. Let me just finish that point, because we think it's such a low standard, and parents want much higher standards. But what's happening in our schools, since graduation and promotion is determined by a grade on a test, so now is teachers' salaries, school, principal salaries. It has a ripple. So what's happening in our schools? What's happening in our schools is we're paying McGraw-Hill and IBM huge amounts of money, not to teach children, but to test prep them.
Let's go back a little bit. Tell me something. Your group, Time Out from Testing, and you've made your points. What is it? How is it that your group? What is your program to measure productivity, to measure promotion, to measure graduation? What would your substitute be?
Okay, well, you and I both I graduated from the New York City system.
I didn't, but
so let me tell you what it was like for me.
But Jane, when you graduated from the New York City system,
there were not high stakes tests, and I did very well.
But there were many other variables that were different.
No, let me explain what we want to see put back into place.
Yeah, let's go. What would you like?
What
to
about
see?
the children's work all year? What about the tests the tests that are given in the classroom? When I was a Regents graduate from New York City schools, we had tests regularly that tested the material that was being taught, not some esoteric test.
Let's go one point at a time.
Okay.
Because we have a listening. So but having said that, they're all qualities of teaching. There are teachers at every end of the spectrum. Some are very good, some are mediocre, and some are not very good at all.
Right.
That's the normal bell curve. Mm-hmm. So how would you suggest controlling?
You're raising a very interesting point.
In a few words,
yes.
Jane, how would you control for all these variables of this testing during the year?
See, I think what's happening, I think you mentioned something very good, is that this is an attempt to control the teachers. This is an attempt to say, okay, teachers, we don't really trust you as a professional. We want to tell you what to teach, how to teach it, and then we'll grade you on how your students do on, let me finish, Jude.
No, we have limited time, and I want to cover a few things.
Okay, so this is about deprofessionalizing teachers. It's about the parents trust the teachers the most because they're in the classroom with our children. I think you can judge the schoolwork. You can walk into any school in New York and you will know what's a good school and what's a bad school. Is the work productive? You could look on the walls in an elementary school and you'll know what's going on.
I would agree, Jane, and I would say to you this, that there might be another side of the coin that says it's not about controlling the teachers, but it is about ensuring that there is a level of acceptability in the material that's being taught across the board.
But there's no proof of that.
I can't, I
there's
have
no
to
proof
say,
that the test does that.
Well,
you're just saying because Bloomberg puts in
that's what a standardized test is supposed to do.
But no, it is. But in these tests, let me tell you how they're constructed.
Is that what? All right, let's go so low. Is a standardized test is intended to standardize the questions asked so that there's some level playing field.
And there's supposed to be a technical manual that goes with it.
And then
it doesn't exist for these tests.
The normal bell curve range of students.
Exactly.
Okay. So is that missing?
Yes. In New York State, the 5 Regents exams, which are required for promotion and determine a child's life, there is no technical manual. The tests are made up by teachers. Albany sets the score after all the tests come back, which is so unstandardized and unprofessional, because they want to see how many kids this year is an election year, how many kids do you want to see graduate. Well, let's cut the scores to, instead of 20 for questions right for passing, let's put it at 25. And another year, you never set the cut scores after the test is given. That's what they're doing in the state. Okay. These tests, even Harcourt Brace, let me just finish this point, in their technical manual for the 3rd, 5th, and 7th grade tests, and now it's McGraw-Hill, they say, do not use the score as a single determination for anything, because even the test makers themselves know that this is not a reliable instrument to know how children are doing.
Yeah, we do know, but there's no such thing as the perfect test. All right, so you raise some points, and your website is on the screen. It will be there again. And, certainly these tests cost a lot of money. The program is getting your money's worth, so it's something else. There's another piece of it that we'll talk about later on. But we have only a couple of minutes left, and I want to ask you about something else. You're the founder of this organization, and you also label yourself parent advocate. What's different about a parent advocate? Isn't that what a parent is?
We would hope all parents should be parent advocates, especially in today's day and age, because I have children who went to the private school children were told they have to do this too, all the best private schools in New York. And you know what they told the state? We will never engage in high-stakes testing because it dumbs down the curriculum. And you know what's happening in New York to public school children? If it's not on the test, we don't teach it. So the arts, music, literature, class trips, in-depth thinking, that's all gone. And children are little rote beings who are just trained to take a test. When they finish with the test, they're not better educated. They're not better educated.
In the minute that's left, in summary, I suppose what we're talking about here is what's true in any gig that you talk about, any place, any life. The balance. No one would argue for no music, no art, no dance, no humanities. On the other hand, no one would say that should come at the expense of reading, math, or science. So it seems to me that one of the things that we're talking about here is a program that represents a balance.
Well, I said we're not opposed to testing. It's useful, but not high stakes. Not with a single score. In January, you're giving an 8-year-old a reading test. She's only had 4 months of school. What happened to January through June?
Well, you might, right, exactly.
But that's determinative.
You might want to also see if she might not want to improve in June.
But she's not allowed to.
Let's hope so.
No, but January's the test. If she doesn't pass it in January, she's not graduating in June. She doesn't get a second chance.
Okay. So your group is you have less testing, more teaching.
Yes, that's what we want.
Your group is time out from testing, and as we've said, Jane is founder of that group, Jane Hirschman, and what we're talking about here is, I suppose, instilling some more balance into the program.
Well, our organization wants to get rid of the excessive and high stakes tests.
Thanks for being on the show. Thank you for watching. I'm Judith West. Getting your money's worth.